Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Bibi, good morning to you in Dubai.
Good morning and greetings to all of you.
And Mohammed.
Morning
Wearing
from
but I'm sure it doesn't mean that he's in a dark mood.
Yes.
So here we are at this time of the year. It's a time of around about now, and last in the previous month, of religious significance. Three of the greatest faiths that we know of, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. It's celebratory time for each of them for various reasons. And, right at the moment, as we're recording this, we're in the middle of Easter. We've just passed Eid al-Fitr, and then before that, of course, Ramadan. And of course, we're getting close to the time of Passover, and I may have missed it, but Passover is also an important part of this time of the year. So whatever your faith, whatever your beliefs are, even if it's not one of those three, I wish you all the best. And at this time, we will say Happy Easter, or we greet people in relation to their faith, whatever that faith is, because we want to show respect to people, don't we, as leaders? And
Absolutely.
even as human beings. And I know when I say that as fellow human beings, that some people achieve things in this world that we don't see much of. And yet without what they did, the world would be a very different place. So what I'm alluding to also is that sometimes we only see the heroes. And the heroes are worthwhile, the heroes are fantastic, and we need heroes. But sometimes these heroes are not recognized. Just because you are the number one at something, or just because you saved a child who was just about to walk in front of a busy road, there are other heroes as well. So I want to suggest we talk about the power of the unrecognized leader. The power of the unrecognized leader. So, gentlemen, what is that sentence or that title ring for you in your mind? Bibi.
Yeah, the word unsung heroes, or people who are leaders who are silently working on daily basis, and our premise is everyone is a leader, and in work life quite often there are people who are maybe who are cleaning the office premises, who are ensuring that everything is in order, who are making sure that the guests are taken care of. And those simple actions have massive impact. But I also want, as Graham mentioned, us to reflect. Are we celebrating them as leaders, or are we keeping quiet and only recognizing when there is a fire happening in the organization and someone is coming with a bucket of water and containing that? So how can we make everyday leaders celebrated? Because they are also heroes, because of them things are working perfectly fine. So this is the immediate thought coming to my mind.
And I know Mohammed always carries a bucket of water. So let's hear from Mohammed about
Yes.
leaders.
Of course, when we use the word celebrate, it's not the word recognize, which Graham mentioned. So recognition, we have three, of course, levels. We can acknowledge, we can recognize, we can celebrate. All of them have different, but let's take the main spirit. We should actually reward good behavior. And Jack Welch said, you don't get the behavior you want. You get the behavior that you reward. Now, how are we rewarding people who are maintaining smooth operations, smooth ways of things being in place, like whether it's for the public, like in government, utilities, whatever. Because of those people or leaders, we are safe, we are secure, we are our commercial business, industrious, all of them are met. And yet, when things go wrong, suddenly the man with a bucket of water is highly celebrated. Although, let me mention a side note, that man who does this is also one of those who was keeping things going. So the hero also is one of those normal people, but they are not normal. They are superheroes who keep things going. They are the leaders, not sitting up there, but doing things and making things, maintaining. Yet, who is recognizing them? Are they recognized?
Let me drill back into an area that I know is dear to your heart and where you spent a lot of time prior to you becoming a world famous speaker and author of a very popular book. It's #1 on Amazon and soon to be #1 on the New York bestseller list. Thank you. There's a little plug for Muhammad's book, Writing Survival.
I was waiting for the name.
Well, tell us the name. Come on, I've given you this lot. I've given you the opportunity. You are the one and only. Yes.
Oh, I'll look him up. I'll look him up.
#1, soon to be #1 on the. We're talking about uncelebrated leaders. By gosh, this one is going to be celebrated when you get to New York bestseller list. So, but what I'm drilling down into or referring to is that we talk about an area that's dear to your heart, and that is health and safety in the workplace, right? And let me simplify this and say that there are 10 rules that have to be followed by everybody. So what happens when there's no accident, everybody's followed the rules? Where's the hero? They're all heroes, right?
Yes.
Because without doing that, we would only be recognizing the man who saved someone because someone had done something wrong, right? Because they didn't follow the rule, but then one man saved them because he knew that I should do that, so he stepped up and did it. He carried a bucket of water. To use the other analogy, but these are people who also aren't they unsung leaders? Aren't they unrecognized leaders? Well, no, that's their job. What? Let's talk about this for a moment. Is it just because it's your duty statement to follow the rules of health and safety? Yes, but where does it come to? It's the attitude, isn't it? It's the passion for what we're doing. And just because you are at a lower, I hesitate to use this descriptor, but there's not a lot of alternatives. And that is at a lower level in the organization. What if you're passionate about what you're doing and you're at a lower junior level in the organization and you do something that because of your passion, because of your leadership and the behaviors that you demonstrate, you can make sometimes a significant or avoid a problem just by doing something simple. And sometimes that what they do goes unrecognized. But they're still heroes, aren't they? At that level, junior level.
We have a saying in no, it's not we, it's Agatha Christie, the famous, crime author, novelist.
She's
She
Arabic,
said, sorry?
She's Arabic, isn't she?
She says, you cannot prove that a crime did not happen. When crimes happen, you can prove, but it's very difficult, impossible to prove that nothing happened because we are programmed, wired to notice what happens. But what did not happen, we are, blank to this. So, for example, all right, it takes that my wife is doing really a good job at home, but if she's out of the house for a day or two or traveling, and I get to do some of her duties, suddenly I get to know what an amazing job she was doing, all right? Because filling in her gap is very difficult. Now I know that, it takes something to go wrong so that I will notice. But as long as it doesn't go wrong, I will not notice. That's except if you are a real leader. If you are a real leader, you will notice what your people are doing or not doing. So don't only open your eyes when things are not going well. What about when things are going well?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, let me two things. No, I'll come to Phoebe. I'll just cover these two as quickly as I can. They are related, but one is in the workplace and one is at home. So in the analogy that you've given, the example that you've given of the good, wonderful thing that your wife does in the household, the wonderful things she does, and you recognize them when she's not there and you have to do them. Sometimes people in a marital arrangement, call it marriage, regard what the other person is doing. Oh, well, that's what my wife should do. That's her, quote, job or her responsibility. Well, why can't you recognize what they have done? Use that same analogy in the workplace. When someone is doing something, they've done it well, they've got a good result, and the leader above them says, well, that's their job. Really? You talk about your wife now. No, you still recognize your wife or your husband. You should recognize the people in the workplace, regardless of the level of they are at the organization. You should encourage their passion. You should celebrate the good work that they're doing at whatever level that they are. And they should be encouraged to do that themselves with others around them. Phoebe, it's all yours.
Yeah, I like the way in which Graham and Mohammed, you mentioned about, how as a leader in an organization holding power and position, how are we recognizing others? And again, we also referred to the culture which we are creating. And am I modeling the way as a positional holder in the organization, recognizing that everything is going well so that we don't need people with buckets of water to put out the fire. So that is also the awareness which we have to create as leaders, how beautiful the things are going. And,
yeah.
and as modeling that in the process, that am I connecting with these people to ensure, to inspire them? So I want to connect it with the leadership challenge, modeling the way. As a leader who holds positional and authority, what am I doing? Second, am I inspiring my team so that they feel the purpose of what they are doing in their regular line of work? And this, imagine the environment that creates. And also Graham, you also touched up on how it impacts our households, how each member of the family takes care. And these are quite often invisible. And when we will feel that experience, maybe someone is feeling not well and that person is not able to do that, how impactful it will be on us. So similarly, it also happens in our line of work, that regular people who are leaders in their own way, doing the work, but imagine that they are unable to do it, and how it impact and create a challenging atmosphere. So having that connection with the team is crucial. And I want to bring into the leadership challenge concept. As a leader, am I modeling the way? As the leader, am I inspiring a shared vision?
Yep. Can I make this point? And I just thinking about what you were saying and what Muhammad said. If as a result of what we're talking about today, if as a result of that, one person who listens to this removes this sentence from their range of words that they're using when someone does a good thing, and if one person removes and doesn't ever say that again, then this has been successful. And that is when we recognize that someone's done a good job, that leader does not say, these are the words I want him to take out or her to take out, but that's his job. So if he does it really, really well, tell him or her what a great job they've done, because they have been leading the way. And I take this to one step further. If someone says to you, at whatever level you are in the organization, if you're listening now, and someone says, what a great job you've just done. I saw this happen, I saw that, and I just think it's fantastic. Please don't take on a mantle of humility and say, oh, I'm just doing my job. No, please recognize that someone is genuinely telling you how much they appreciate what you are doing. We must recognize people. And so if you're being recognized, don't push it off and say, oh, I'm just doing my job. Yeah, but think that tonight when you go home, that the job that you did may have saved lives, it may have kept the power running, it might have solved the little old lady, whatever. It might have been sometimes little and unseen ways.
For example, since Phoebe mentioned inspiring shared vision, which is the second practice of the 5 exemplary leadership practices. And there's a huge emphasis on communication. It manifests more in the second practice, although all the 5 practices include and are they use communication as a main tool, but in inspiring a shared vision. So let's go to the how. How can leaders do that? I will give example again from my industry. So there is a tool called, it's a legal requirement, it's a corporate safety requirement. It's called permit to work. When an owner of an area in the factory or in the industry has to hand over that area, like a pump complex, okay, for the maintenance to work on. So the maintenance are not the owners, so they have to work safely. So he has to permit them. We call it permit to work documents, but it's not only document. The owner has to go with the maintenance there at the spot and watch all the risks and make sure all the risks has been controlled. And then he signs and hands over the area to the people who want to work, whether they are contractors or maintenance. Now, here's the catch. This is a normal requirement, and it's a very critical one, and it's part of their job, all right? How about this leader, when he gathers everyone, including the safety guy there, starts the conversation by saying, gentlemen, we are here to run a permit to work, which is very important and key to the safety of the people who are using and the people who will use this after it's handed over. And this is not only a legal requirement, so I congratulate you for being here and doing things the way they should be so that we save lives, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes on and does the permit to work. How bad is this? How difficult is this to do that, right? And also when everything are done successfully, why not say, because of you, gentlemen, everything was in place and no one was harmed. Thank you for doing a good job. Give me back the permit to work. So why don't we do reminders that we are doing a good job? This is a recognition that we can do at every opening of the meeting. Communicate by reminding of the shared vision, reminding of the shared values. Just communicate those.
Yes, and it's for everybody. Remember, this is about the power of unrecognized leadership. The power of unrecognized. So when it's unrecognized, I feel that this is a little bit like the DNA that impacts from what every person does on the chain along the way to get an outcome. The power that these people have, who may not be recognized, but should be recognized for what they are doing in the chain, as I say, along the way. That they are the people who are watching the areas of safety that must be adhered to, and it's an automatic thing for them to do. They don't necessarily need to be reminded every day because they do it. People even at a lower level can have a passion for what they're doing, and they're not necessarily recognized. But because of the passion that they have, because of the belief in what they're doing, because of the commitment that they have, are they not leaders? Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They might be surprised to hear that. And I must have mentioned this some time ago, but a woman came on the leadership program many years ago. She said, oh, I saw it was a leadership program, and I didn't think that was for me. And then I thought, yeah, that is me. Yeah, yes. So if we do nothing else as a result of this, well, I've already asked the leaders not to say, or managers not to say, but it's just his job. But also for people at all levels to recognise the importance of what they are doing and how what they are doing, yes, it's part of their job description, but if they've got a passion for what they're doing, if they're living their values, if they are delivering on what's required and a little bit more, This is amazing leadership that is not recognized, and yet it has significant power overall in relation to the success of the organization. Phoebe, sitting there wisely, waiting for me to take a breath.
This what you mentioned is actually, helping people to be challenge the process to what am I doing? How can I do it differently? And the awareness, and if they see, okay, the positional holders in leadership, in organization, modeling the way, inspiring the shared vision, and that leads them, the people who are observing these, to challenge the process in what they are doing. And as Mohammed mentioned, what can I do to make the safety better? What can I, and they because they see the purpose of their work in action. And this simple act of the people with the leadership authority developing other leaders in the organization, how much it will help the organization to thrive. And quite often what we are sometimes not seeing is people, when they move into positional authority, forget about developing other leaders within the organization. And the leadership development is not given that strategic priority. What can we do? And this is a challenge which I am offering people who are holding leadership positions, where, sometimes you may have to sign that budgetary allocation for developing and training my team. What am I doing with that? Am I creating more leaders, enabling them? And that links to the fourth practice, enable others to act. Imagine that this is a phrase which I have used in my LinkedIn, that knowledge brings awareness and awareness breeds potential.
Yep.
Imagine that if I can bring that exemplary practices of leadership to all my workers in my team, how effective and how productive the workplace become.
And you know that the leaders who are demonstrating wonderful exemplary behavior, that this behavior is contagious at all levels. He's modeling the way, or she, and people recognize the good things that are happening. I like what's happening here because of what they are doing. I'll do the same thing. And this cascades down. And yet there are still people who can kind of operate on their own in a little bit, even if their manager is not demonstrating exemplary leadership, but he's just being a do it this way type manager. But that individual can create for themselves an environment where they are leading. I'm not saying that they are rebelling and going against what their manager is asking, but they're doing things in a way that shows real leadership, and they're getting real results. And I think in those cases, those people will probably go home at the end of the day thinking to themselves, yeah, I did well today. I did okay. Ahmed.
Exactly. On a daily basis, I'm reminded of one of the books I read about motivation. I liked the author when he mentioned, I am not a big fan of the employee of the month concept, all right? And the idea behind that is that we set targets to improve and boost performance, sales targets, production targets, whatever, all right? So every industry has its own targets. So when the person who reaches the target the most in a period which is designated, we put his or her picture, first, second place, and everybody, he's happy. What about the rest 100 people who are in the company? It's as if we are saying those three did a good job, you didn't, all right? We are just saying that actually. But all of those also, all the way, maybe some of them are very close to the target, have done a really good job, but none of them will be recognized. It's as if neutralizing everything that everyone has done, okay? That's one of the most toxic ways to reward people. You should reward ideas. And he says, the author, we encourage the competition of ideas, not the competition of individuals, all right? So a basic thing you can do is, one of the wrong ways to recognize is just to recognize when people reach peak performance. What about the rest?
What about the rest? And the idea of employee of the month is at least we're recognizing one person. And
Yeah.
yes, someone's being recognized. So that might come to me at some stage. And isn't it nice? There's a photo that goes in the company newsletter, and they get a reward of some sort. And when I'm thinking about this, there was a bank situated in a part of Dubai called, it used to be called Bank Street. I don't know whether it's still called Bank Street. Is it still called Bank Street, Billy? Yes, that one. This bank had a car space at the back of their car parking area, or not, at the back of their block of land that the building was on. And they had a number of car spaces, and a general manager or managing director or whatever. And they had another one, which was the employee of the month. Now, this amused me, because what if it either says, well, only senior people who own cars become employee of the month. But what if I'm an employee of the bank who doesn't own a car? So what am I going to do with the car park? I lease it out for the month to my friends who want to pay me their parking money rather than going parking their car somewhere else. Joke, of course. But I'm with you overall. The concept of employee of the month is kind of okay. But what's more important is we recognize those people and recognize everybody. We recognize that there are people at whatever level of the organization who are doing amazing things, and that quite often they are unrecognized. And they should be, because of their silent impact on the organization. But when it comes to silent recognition, it means that their manager is not recognizing them when he or she should. Why are they not recognizing them? Because the manager, he or she, feels that this person may take their job. It might be better than me at some stage. So I feel threatened. My ego will not let me encourage them to do better things. But these people silently get on with doing the best they can to achieve good things, despite the difficulty that they might have from a manager. Leadership is indeed a wonderful thing. And we are still trying to find significant changes, and we will keep doing this with the world to be a better place because of better leaders. Mohammed.
I'm also reminded that while we are wrapping up, another way, simple way, it's very simple, really. And I remember when we were working in our departments, everyone can relate, all right? And we see from our windows that the manager has decided to take a walk in the department, and he's soon going to pass by us, whether in our, turbine units or we are office cubicles, whatever, all right? But we know the manager is coming. What is our response and our attitude? We show we are busy with work, right? If we are not busy with work, and if we are busy working, we will do even best. We will look the best. All our gears are there. It is a human nature to crave for recognition, because those moments, though as much naive they are, all right, they are really basic instinct that I like that my manager acknowledges, sees me, hears me. And those few minutes make a lot, because it will reflect on his perception. He will go back to his office and thinks, oh, Muhammad did a good job. What if this was 24/7? So the managers or leaders should develop culture, a way of doing things that I see you, I hear you, even if I'm not there. I see you, I hear you. It's more than enough for everyone to do a great job and feel recognized in the same time.
I had one other of those three. I see you, I hear you, I support you.
Yes, beautiful.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I want to bring that fifth practice here, as you all are highlighting that I see you, I hear you, I recognize you in that process. That is the fifth practice, encouraging the heart. And as Mohammed mentioned, imagine that you being a department head or in your floor, in your office, do you know the name of each staff member? Imagine that in a week, if there are 30 people on a daily basis, you can meet 10 people in the floor. or 5 people in the floor and say, is there any challenge where you may require my support? Instead of they coming to you, what kind of appreciation the employees feel?
Yeah, yeah.
And the connection building, I want to bring the concept, which again is Peter Block concept, which he always remembered, connection before content. Imagine that connection building happens in our workplace, how much it encourages the heart. And as we wrap up, I want to reiterate, look into your floor. Who has received a leadership development program? Why are we not running that? Is it related to a budgetary constraint? Or is it something else? How flourishing or thriving my department, my organization, my team, if I imbibe the learning? How can I build the awareness of my team? And how it will have a cascade effect? As we know, leadership can be contagious. How can we create a leadership system in our workplace? And that is where we come in to support you.
Leadership training is not a cost. It is an investment. Gentlemen, thank you very much. And to all those who are feeling a little bit unwelcome, not unrewarded, who are doing great things at whatever level of the organization, I know that you are genuinely deserving of the appreciation that should have come to you, if you're feeling that nobody in my organization recognizes what we do, but I go home every night thinking I've done a good job. Well, that's great. And so I say, keep doing that. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and your wisdom, and we will be back with you. We will whack back with you next week. And I say in the meantime, have a great, successful week leading others. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.